I'll try and keep it short so that I don't keep the downstairs neighbors up. Right? So now you've got dihypercarbic versus trihypercarbic, which then leads into the blood type that you have. My personal favorite one is this one. Actually, though, dihex A or B negative, and how we have floating electrons in our bloodstream, right? With if you have alkaline metals, if you're more salt-based, if you're more sugar-based, you will be more sugar-based if you're on the methylytic side, and if you're on glycolytic, if you're on ethylytic, you'll be salty or sweet. But all the extra ions that you live with in your environment, such as, in the Tibetan mountains, Angola, where you have the pink Himalayan sea salt, the Sherpas, funny enough, they don't get affected by it as much because of the thin air and the altitude. Because they're breathing in ozone. They don't even need meth up there. They already got it. So the interesting thing is, right? Okay, so it's like your woman or your wife or your friend, your girlfriend, who's like Penny, right? Driving the light with her blinking light on. Beep, beep, beep. Not to mention, she is now 3 hours late for work. She can't find the keys in the bottom of her purse. You're trying to give her helpful suggestions, and it's just, and she's like running around like a mad woman. She still has to get the kids ready. That is ADHD brain, while your brain is trying to go, I need to keep this bitch alive and not shut down organs so that they don't die. What can I do to supplement this, since I can't make this on my own, nor can it break down in my system because I'm not used to producing it, even though I need it? How does that work? Well, it then starts to pull from your sugars and your salts. And since it's going to be pulling more from salt because you're a tri versus a bi or dicarbic, right? Then it creates cortisol. It's then also going to break down into, what are some of the other ones? Serotonin, not as much. It's mostly going to be norepinephrine. So now you're running your diesel truck, your brand new Nissan Titan diesel, manual shift, because they're one of the only ones, them and Ram. Your wife just went and filled that up with gasoline, unleaded gasoline, and started the thing, or tried, which it did till it choked out, and then went. Now you got a worthless truck. Someone apparently has gone too that way. My condolences for your loss. And congratulations on the divorce. Sorry, I couldn't resist on that one. Oh man, oh man. So what about when we get down here? So let's finish with this one though. So that's what it's like with the ADHD brain. So now, because they're producing cortisol, insulin, and norepinephrine from whatever they can break down, right, to create this likewise, right? Where it's like, okay, I think I can make this work, hopefully. Let's try and keep her alive, maybe, for a while. And then boom, like Ryan. Good at gambling though, really good. So then, when you smoke it, what's the difference between that and Adderall? Well, Adderall is actually the most strongest. They concentrate it as per CAMH's own website. So they now make it extra strong. They look at that, they just boiled it down from what they get from the supplier at the pharmacy. They boil it down, turns into a crystal. Oh no! And then they add monosodiums to it, then put it into a long-lasting capsule. The exact same drug that they call bath salts is what you give your child. It's just they can't find it or can't afford it on the streets, and they smoke it there, which then, since the salts, then bath salts. So what does that do within the human body? Well, the long-lasting and the amount of sodiums that they put into it after you're already now running on a sodium instead of a sugar base as a ADHD person. Now, if you add in that you're going to put them on a depressant like fluvoxetine or bupropion, they're going to be so fucked up you don't even know what to do. So then, the thing that's different, it's the only reason it's psychoactive technically as Adderall is because you're adding the salts, which then dehydrates them, and then you go into delirium and organ shutdown. It actually takes, when you smoke it, it gives them the key to actually break it down, as well as I call it trithistab, trithyroid stabilizer. So it takes a couple of the carbon atoms, right, from the methylbutane. So when you smoke it, it takes a couple of those extra carbon atoms, and then it makes it a trihypercarbia. But it also makes it a hyaluronic tricarbic acid, which is exactly the acid they need to be the bonding agent between the neuroreceptors and the drug that you're trying to feed it that it doesn't know how to interpret. It knows it needs it. It doesn't know how to, or rather it can't, it just bounces off. I like to use this analogy. If you're going to the strippers tonight, gentlemen, do you want the stripper that's wet where everything is up? Or do you want to throw that stripper glitter and nothing is up? That's what it's like. It's the glue. It's also not going to fuck them up further. You'll notice they'll like calm down. Here's the number one problem right now. People are using this program, You Can Kill Grandma. Can anyone think of why? You've already seen the results with me. It's when somebody is with me who has a high blood pressure, who has a contraindication of medication. Maybe they have a medication that I shouldn't be on. Maybe I have one that they shouldn't be on. Okay, let's talk about injuries. What about if they have a rod in their spine or in their knee that grandma doesn't have, right? Or even near their heart. And now all of a sudden, the metal isn't changing the same size at the same rate as the bone. And now you rip somebody's ACL open or you rip their heart open. What about a stent? What about aneurysm clips? They don't change shape or size at the same time. That's the same as bone. Now the interesting thing part there, right? It actually creates a fourth one for those who are ADHD and whatnot. And that is the melatonin chain. Melatonin will help you stay asleep, not fall asleep. If you take it to fall asleep, that's not going to do you anything, actually. It's just going to stress you out more, actually, because you're like, why can't I fall asleep on this? Well, because it's not to help you fall asleep. It's to help you maintain your sleep. Tryptophan is the other one that you get from a turkey or most of the poultry. However, where was I going with that? Can't remember. But it drops. It's because they drop back into homeostasis. So that's a fancy word for they've plateaued and they've become like their body is back happy because it's got what it needs. So now Penny's not freaking out because she's got her keys. Her check engine light is not going on. So even Leonard's just like whew, whew, melatonin right there. But it also, this one is a hypothesis. My hypothesis is because it has the HOHO at the front there on the very beginning, that would actually create heavy water there. And then it would actually probably more than likely help flush the extra toxins out that they've created to try and sustain them for quite a while, actually. So long-term effects of that on an ADHD individual not having that, epilepsy would be one. Like they would have some serious issues, and it would lead to like a long-term, if it's not treated, would be different forms of sleep apnea, stress disorders, mood disorders, and all just based off of they just didn't have the right thing. But this also then ties into the gay gene, actually. Most of the individuals on either side of the spectrum, I'm like solely gay, like top, like the super gay, I call it, right? The drag queen, some of them, right? Because they're so like over the top. It's normal for them. They have trihypercarbic, methyl glycolytic, trihexa blood. Think about the butch lesbians. Why are they so grumpy? Because they need this. They're methylated. Right? But it also has other implications, such as those who are, can anybody think about it? Think about cultures where you might repress your joy a little bit, or suppress your feelings. Places such as Holland, for instance. Bipolar disorder. What happens when we start doing things in society for a certain amount of time? Adaptation. Our bodies adapt to certain environments, just like the finch of the Galapagos Islands, right? So a long-term side effect of depriving yourself of joy, depriving yourself of enjoyment of things, of family, of this or of that, is that this is going to happen. Your body starts shutting down the production of those chemicals because it doesn't think it needs it, but your body does still need it. It's going to be grumpy without it. If you grow up in a place with like no sunlight, or if you work nights also, and you're probably going to develop that adaptation because you're not getting the same amount of dopamine, Sunny D. Like our friends who grew up underground. They're really going to need it, actually. By the way, they are super smart and they are telepathic for the most part. They developed it over centuries, and they can also go invisible just by thinking about it. Isn't that cool? To be scared enough? Maybe not cool, but I'd be curious at finding that gene. The ghost gene, right? Also probably from dinosaurs, or just hiding from shitty people. I also realized that it might be like this with the A, but this is the interesting part, because this now becomes 6 different places where you can connect. Or it's like touching a hot stove. It's going to shut off number 6. It's going to move over to a point in the hexagon, right? Temporarily, and then can go back, but it's probably not going to until it's forced to. So unless you burn yourself again on the stove, it will stay there, and then it will try to go back to the first one, which is really amazing. It's also like, goes back to we grew up under different radiation. This is actually a huge key one. So it's a night and a day effect. If they grew up underground, like the KKK, etc., you're looking at polymethylitic for sure. But you're also looking at electromagnetic radiation is what they grew up with. We grew up under ultraviolet light with the sun. They didn't. They're going to be on the other spectrum. Which, for our friends in the Middle East, is actually really huge. Because, well, this is why I call it the white bitch brigade. Because they got shoved underground from you going to their countries and taking their children and calling them infidels, or, preaching your God is greater at some point for some God-known reason. when what does burning high fructose corn syrup do? What's one of the byproducts? Cyanide gas. Inside the body, not a big deal, just turns your hair black. Maybe a little toxic and makes you a little crazier, or eccentric for a better word. But what about outside? Oh, right, death. Oxidizes outside, you're done. No matter how much you have inside you, if it oxidizes before and then you breathe it in, you are done. You'll be toast. Oh, man. Then we got, what else here? I was going somewhere with that. Right. O positive blood. I guess any of you that drive a motorcycle or do anything crazy on bikes, well, tough luck for you. I'll just keep my O positive gay-ish blood to myself, thank you. I won't donate it no more, no way. Because that also happens to cross over. I find it very interesting that the dipenta here actually also kind of looks like Urdu over there. Which again, why are we going to call them crazy when they burn leaded fuel over there? Because it's cheaper, right? We don't burn it over here. But they burn it over there because it's a cheaper gas. They also burn kerosene and a lot of diesel, and it's not clean diesel either. Hasn't been refined as much, so they have a lot more sulfides in it. And all three of those, because the other two byproducts are mercury and lead, means they suffer from neurotoxicity poisoning of 1, 2, and 3 minimum. And they typically hide in bunkers from, well, Christians who come over and make their life a living hell. And they burn diesel generators under there to keep them alive and do certain things, which then just drives that through the roof. I'm pretty sure this will actually help them fix it and flush the neurotoxins out. I'm hoping. Then if we talk about the binary and non-binary, I was thinking in binary code, like, you know, on Star Trek where they 1001 and then they can't live without one another. That would be a binary pair. So that's like having two X's, an X and a Y, right? So if you're talking about the non-binary, then you got to see where it would fit with the blood type. So it's going to be, and I think I'm missing a row here, but that's okay. This is what I'm still working on. So that's how that ties in. And then it'll also be with whether they're poly. This is all on my the Ugly Truth 2 on Twitter, actually, or Blue Sky, sorry. And all of my other teaching videos are gone, but I had several, including the one about that ties in with the Ukraine and Slovenia and Latvia and all of those countries. They all suffer from like alkaline metal poisoning, which also, what do we know about that? Super extra valent electrons. Why? Because, well, chunk about the size of that, of rubidium, alkaline metal, if you threw that off the sky bridge at the pylon, and please don't do this. This is not a challenge, kids. It will blow it up. You would take out a good chunk of that. You would take out the pillar. You would probably take about 3 of the pillars with just that small chunk of alkaline metal, of rubidium. That's how explosive it is. So think about their personalities. But also think about how many diseases can they catch in that section of the world then, with how many different valent electrons spinning around, unpaired. They have about 200% chances of getting sick than you do, especially if they live on a farm in those areas. Toxoplasma gondii being very specific to cats. The other one is chickens. Chickens and cats on a farm are 2 of the dangerous things you could have ever lived with. Mostly, that's why their excrement smells so bad. And it's where AIDS comes from, is cats, actually. If you have a cat, Get rid of it. Get rid of it fast. One gentleman who's from India or one of the countries, possibly Trinidad. Peter, get that thing out of my house. No, no cat. Get it out now. It was quite funny. I've had quite a few parents stop by from different areas. Uh, so there's that one. Because they walk around on your counter. If you don't think that your cat walks around on your counter, they do. After they've been in their litter box, and well, then it builds, and they're not a symbiotic relationship. They're a host to it. So even though it doesn't get the cat sick, it's going to get you sick. The next one here, well, some doctors are laughing. Sure, well, absolutely, but there's quite a few who actually were not, and it did actually bring me my PhD on the first try, actually. Because there's quite a few fascial stretch therapists among doctors now, because you can get medically certified for it. And so I sent it to some of my former colleagues there, who that research is done at University of Arizona, actually, which is pretty cool. So fascia is the connective tissue that is slimy on the chicken breast if you're cooking. So that thin, that's what it is. It's a net of hollow connective strands, right, of proteins, right? But it's hollow and it's filled with fluid, which is CSF, actually, or slightly different. I need to know the full makeup of it, which I have like up there. It's an acidic sugar, 7.33 on the pH scale, which is kind of interesting. Right? Acidic sugar. It's essentially like sugar glass, which is exactly the problem. One of my colleagues for sure had that symptom of it from being given Ritalin, actually. She's a fantastic trainer, though. So if you're in Toronto, go see Emma at Body and Soul Fitness. She can help you out. So it's what some doctors call cotton packing when they're doing cadaver research or first doing med school. I think Dr. Ming called it, aka Christina Yang. So funny. I know who that is. So it's got 10 to the 12th power, actually, of neuroreceptors that our skin has. If you do the math on that, it actually becomes 500 terahertz is the communication speed that it has. 500 terahertz. That's the exact same as fiber optic like speed for your internet at home. It's not the amount of data that's important in this one. So if you're talking in technical terms for like coaxial cable will actually carry more, actually faster. It can carry up to like 250, or is it, no, sorry, 500 gigabytes you can carry on as very fast speeds. It's still like the best, actually, coaxial cable for internet. If you're talking a sound level or an optics, then you're talking fiber optics. But if you're just talking about data, coaxial. That's like your central nervous system. That's the coaxial version of this guy. This guy, so you got both. You got dual systems here, which is amazing. And it's not a lesbian, so it doesn't need a ligament to connect the nerve to the brain and the brainstem, right? It's direct connect. So not only do you not need those gold plate connectors anymore, it's moving it 10 to the 12 times faster. Talk about an upgrade, which we already know, or talk about it as your autonomic nervous system versus your autonomic. So your flight or flight responses, reptilian brain, homeostasis, which then is why our CSF changes out 4 times a day, because it's got to keep this system clean, actually. So we're 80% water. This is where that 80% water comes in. And it's produced at the dura, at the base of the occiput. It's a unidirectional system. There we go. It's a unidirectional system. It changes out 4 times a day, and it's at the subarachnoid. I can never pronounce it sometimes. Your brain's buoyancy in that plasma fat. It's actually plasma. I figured this out. Why would a brain only weigh 50 grams in something if it's the lighter of the two objects? What would be heavier? Wait, doesn't the brain weigh like 60 pounds on? Well, it doesn't. No. That would be the plasma in your head that weighs that much. Just like your plasma screen weighs that much more than your LCD screen, that's because it's plasma, which makes your brain only weigh 50 grams. Isn't that cool? It's practically gas within your head, actually. I think it's only when we take it out that it becomes a solid. Oh, that would make a huge difference. Oh my gosh. Right? That's cool. That is so cool. So then, if you're doing your math, right? Energy, thermodynamics, you got 8 miles per hour. If you're becoming a human head softball, punched by someone, right? If you say get punched by a baseball person, your head is now the baseball. It's now flying 96, but your friend's fist was flying at 104 first. So impact, your point is 104, drops to 96, meaning you've got 8 miles per hour that you have to account for in an energy system in your body. Where's that 8 miles per hour of damage being done? And what are the effects of it on the human body? Which then actually leads, I think, to one of the most helpful ones for trauma surgeons, actually, and for trauma doctors in ERs, which will be this. And it will help people understand car crash victims a little bit more, actually. When your fists, or when somebody's fist meets your face, where is that motion going? And energy can only be stored or transferred, right? Can't be created or destroyed, only stored or transferred. So what's happening to that when it hits the brain? Point of impact. Jaw dislocates, just like in the scene of Sherlock Holmes. Then you can see it reconnect back together. But your scalenes are now going to go and try and correct. Okay, there's some energy. How many joules did that take? So you got to go from there, right? So that triggers a response system, which the blood plasma barrier is actually the most important thing of. You know how it looks white? Like an anesthetic that they give you at the dentist office sometimes to fall asleep if you do sedation dentistry? It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. And that is your cheesecloth of anesthetic for this process to keep it clean so that you don't get meningitis. But it's also the filter system for your entire fascial system, which is why it's only unidirectional. Because you don't want it being it's like your backflow valve, essentially. Which is pretty cool. Which is your white blood cells. Because it's full of it. When we're doing M&As, this will become very, very, very important, actually, for that. Because with this, you'll understand more of what people go through and what first responders are dealing with. When your car gets hit, the first in that kinetic chain of events is going to be the exact same as your last hit. your last point of contact with the vehicle or anything in the vehicle. For instance, car hits you from behind or hits you on the side, you lurch forward. Second point, so that's your first hit. That's you at 100%. Now you're going to take a hit to the shoulder on the left side if you're driving the car, right? There's that, times that by 0.25. Next thing you know, your head's going to hit the back of the thing. Oh, number 3, another 0.25, 50% down. So on, so forth, so forth. Making it, by the time you hit number 6, your head hitting the dashboard, what's the percentage of damage and what chance do you have of making an actual recovery? That's worth it. Or did you make a miracle? It's like multiplier. Which, that one's a hard one. But that will actually mean a lot to many, many doctors who are probably about to, once they see this video. You're probably going to start going through your losses again and go, I can use this to calculate to see if I really fucked up or not. Or might help you win a case to go, I didn't screw up. So I hope that's the case for many of you. It will also help many victims. If doctors do go through them, you will be able to actually help some of your former patients. And I'm thinking this maybe for Grey's Anatomy actually probably will be the most helpful. Because some of those families still don't have answers and have been sandbagged by Hollywood. And I don't think even some of the leaders of those shows who are the medical doctors, I don't even think that they're being sued. Why? Because they killed off Derek Shepherd. They've killed off how many of them because of that fact? And it started from season 1, actually. And it started when a gentleman was only given porn when they castrated him for being a pedo. Mark, who Izzy was super judgmental of. And Izzy, Catherine, I have some words for you. Because that's a friend of mine. And I was over age. And they did that to him for no goddamn reason. And the only thing they gave him for pain relief was porn, because it does raise some of the anesthetic factors, but that's about it. So, sorry to leave that on that note, but if you saw my posts on Blue Sky the other day, I ripped them a new asshole. Because the homeless here in Toronto have access to the programs, and they've actually been protecting our citizens more than you know from some of the policing that's been going on here, because they see everything. Never underestimate them. They are very kind people too. They basically stand watch outside all of the police stations to watch in, and then they pass the messages along too between each other of, this person's coming in, the police are being total douches, make sure we do something for them. And then they figure out who to pair with them medically safely, actually, to get them out of there into the hospital so that the hospital can keep them instead of being abused by the police force. If that doesn't speak volumes, I don't know what does. So doctors at UHN hospitals, they're the reasons why you usually end up with being the last name on file so that you take the blame. But they're doing it so that people actually aren't super abused and suffer more damage at the police force. Which, out of the other outcomes, I think it's the best one. So, yeah. So I guess whoever's like locking me up, thanks for pushing me to the top of the fields. And not just this, but in criminology as well. I never thought I'd get this far. When you're too busy doing other stuff, then, this doesn't come out, but I'm enjoying it. And being a hero isn't all what it's out to be. Changing lives, when you focus on changing lives more than being the hero, which is something big in the doctor world, you're always supposed to remember that you're not a god. Also remember that in policing too. It's hard to stay humble. Being someone who grew up Christian, I'll say this much. I wouldn't want to go to a heaven where everything is perfect and white and flowy. I wouldn't. And if I got there, I would say, please don't fix me, because being dependent on something, other than just like remembering to spend time with a heavenly Father, would be, is it reminds me that I'm not you, so that I don't overthrow you thinking I know everything in the world. That's about it. I hope this helps. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll post. It's already posted everywhere, so that should help. It is kind of weird hearing me talk like this, right? And it's somewhat here and there. It's not a fake accent. It just pops up here and there because I haven't had it for 30 years, because when you're a sexual trafficking victim, they fry it off, essentially, with a hot searing pan using an EEG machine that then they boost up the power on, and they reverse it through the system so that they can touch a hot frying pan and cut off the memories, essentially, and burn it. They cauterize it, essentially, using an EEG machine. It's extremely painful. It's like the only thing I remember from being a kid. Next to waking up on the pavement with a hat. A dog hat with a tongue sticking out, and it was Dalmatian. It was the year 1997. That's about all I remember from my childhood. Those are the only two things that I remembered until this last 2 years. Then it started coming rushing back, and still don't have the help to process that. But that's, let alone being Richard Nixon's freaking kid. That's a little bit. Although he was a good preacher, I'll tell you that much. And I do remember that he was in law school when I was born. That I remember. In the womb in the first couple of years. That I remember. Oh my gosh. Essentially, I'm thinking, if I'm picturing it, I see Jason Segel. I see Jason Segel, and I see Lily being their relationship, actually. I could see. I could see that. He passed this a couple years ago, actually. 2 years, but yeah. Good preacher, and my writing looks like his, especially my legal notes. You can tell it's for sure his, because I picked it all up. The first 3 years of your life, actually, I'm gonna end with this one. This is a good note. The first 3 years of a child's life are when their personality is developed, the entire personality. So if you want to talk about high stakes and, did you mess up as a parent? More than likely, yes. And I say that only because of this reason. How many people and parents have gone, we're struggling in our marriage. We need something to focus on together. Let's have a baby. That'll fix the problem. Meanwhile, a child is entirely, their entire personality is developed 90% finished by the time they are 3 years old. You got about 10% after the fact to play with, to make sure they're not a shithole person. So you got 3 years, and it's actually not even how you treat them. It's how they observe you treating your family members, and the biggest one is your spouse. So if you two are constantly fighting in the first 3 years of its life, well, Can't blame me for it. Can't blame anybody else for it. And the biggest reason your marriage doesn't work is because of unmet expectations of your spouse that you probably haven't even said if you're on the woman's side. And if you're on the man's side, well, you tried. But it was met with cold ears. Sorry, just the damn truth. Fight me. That's all I got. Shoot me a message or questions. And remember, nobody's a terrorist, just suffering some sort of sickness. Just like my Oma said, my adoptive one. The church is full of sick people. It's a hospital. And sick people always hurt sick people. That's what people need to remember. And Roy, I tried running when the fat cat came, the Rocky Road cat. It didn't help. And bitch still got his claws in me. I need to push him down another elevator shaft, apparently. Apparently he wouldn't learn for the first time, so... Well, now I'm going to push him off a cliff this time. Can anyone change Garfield back?